All right. It's now Wednesday. We skipped Tuesday. Esther was very sick, so she was home, and I don't really like doing the recording with other people at home, so I didn't do it. Which I guess is kind of like a nice segue into what I was thinking I wanted to talk about, which is hurdles. I often encounter this question. Like I'll tell somebody I'm a writer, and then they'll immediately follow up with, what do you write? Which is a perfectly reasonable, even desirable response, right? Like they're immediately interested in my work. That is a good thing. That's an awesome thing. Like that's what any writer would want. Um, but a lot of times I feel, say, shy or embarrassed to share that information. And I've actually thought quite a bit about it, um, as to why that is. Like the thing that I've written, why did I write it? I guess that would be the first question. Like I wrote 2 books so far. Why? What reason was there for me to write these books? What was the point? Um, so if I tell someone that I'm a writer and they ask me, what did you write? And I can't. Hang on. My camera's all messed up. My camera's not messed up. That's a lie. I've shifted my position slightly, and I have a camera that sits on top of my monitor. It's not as flexible. Anyway, I moved over a bit, and so now I'm kind of on the side of the camera. Anyway, it's fixed. So I guess the first question is, why would I be embarrassed to talk about what I've written? And that one's kind of hard for me. Like it took a lot of mental gymnastics to even figure out what was going on with me. Like somebody literally asked, "What's your book?" Follow-up question, "Where can I get it?" And my response is to be shy and not want to talk about it. And then give excuses as to why it's not available for them to purchase. Um, so I guess the first question I have to ask myself is like, is there a problem with what I've created? Like, am I embarrassed of my own story? Um, no, not particularly. I would say I'm more proud of my story than anything. Um, but I think it goes a little deeper than that. I understand. I'm rambling a little bit. I'm kind of like asking myself rhetorical questions and working through them slowly and not really saying anything. Um, I guess the point that I'm trying to get to is I think that when somebody's creative or expressive, or artistic, um, the thing about that is that the art that you create is, in fact, very personal. Um, and whether or not you want to admit it, it says something about you. And so it can be frightening to open that up to somebody's judgment, um, which is essentially what you're doing. Like if you say I'm an author, and somebody says, "Awesome, I love that. What is the name of the book that you wrote?" you're immediately opening yourself up to their judgment. Because first of all, you're going to give them the title, right? Like the title of the book. So that's a place where they could judge you. Okay, I see something wrong with the way that I've drawn this, right? Like as I'm working on these shadows, I'm noticing something very important here, which is I have this going over and to the back. So this should be, behind him material. But then I've cut off his leg with this flap. And this doesn't make sense. There's no connection to the backside of the cloak that goes to there. So this doesn't make sense. You'd have to do something like that maybe. But even that, like that doesn't look very natural, does it? Like over here, we need to, well, first of all, these lines shouldn't exist on this layer, right? So let's back it off, take those out. There has to be something bringing this fabric forward. I have these buttons set up differently than I expected. Ooh. Oh, everything's going wrong right now. That's okay. That's no big deal. So the way that I drew it is, it's okay, but it doesn't make sense. A part of it doesn't make sense. So we need to change that. Okay. And then the way that I have my pen set up, it also doesn't make sense. See, it's a color picker on this front button here, and I don't want that. That's not what I'm looking for. So I think it's not a software setting. It's a driver setting, but when I go to the pen, it is set up as undo. But not in clip paint. It is not set as undo in clip paint. Okay, let's see if it works now. Shall we? Oh, okay. There we go. Now it's set as undo. Right? So we're good now. Okay, so anyway, I have this problem here. I don't want to thicken this line, but also like I haven't done anything on this since the last time I was recording, and one of the things that is not done on this is I didn't clean up my lines. Like I haven't finished his finger or anything, and I just wanted to jump straight into my hard shadows, and I've not done any other parts. But I do notice like this part is wrong. So I want the fabric to go over his leg because I don't want to be hassled to try to figure out where his hip is. So I want it to not show up until after his hand, right? Oh, now we're causing problems. That's not on this layer. Okay. Back here, and we'll say, so if it's swooping up, like that's the best I could do. Okay, we got like if it has to meet this line here, I just gotta start turning earlier. So then it's kind of like, I like that little blip there, but I almost want to split this. So we got this little blip here, and I want it to be like a fold, maybe. And then that's coming down. And then let's see here. It'll come down like that. Okay. Okay, that's good. Now, I've seen a lot of people when they're doing this, they have like a sub view showing, and I think that's pretty great. So let's get that going. And I really just want the sub view to be the canvas, and I'm not exactly sure how to do that. So this sub view. Oh, there, it's not the sub view, just a navigator, right? That's fine. We can just show the navigator. That should probably do the trick, right? And then if I need to see the history, I can just pop over. Yeah, just something, you know, to give a sense of where we're at. Okay. So this has been a mess. I wanted to talk about something. Let me try to collect my thoughts real quick. Yeah, I wanted to talk about the hurdles, right? So creating is very personal. I think anybody who creates something has the sense that what they've created says something about them as a person. And you know, like, I don't know, I've just kind of always been dorky, maybe, you know, a little dorky compared to the people around me. And maybe, you know, like in an unhealthy way, I've just worried about appearing dorky or not respectable. Like, I think this is fairly common to men in particular. Like, we want to be respected by the people around us. That's not hard to understand. I think most men feel that way. There's a desire to be respected. And so if you're a dork, you're not really respected. I think that's the... Oh, look at that. See, now I'm doing hard shadows on the sketch layer, which is... I don't want to be doing that. All kinds of mistakes today, right? So what am I going to do about it? Well, I think what I'm going to do about it... Well, I don't want to step back through. I don't want to do undos. I think I'm just going to end up leaving it. No, I got to take it out. I got to take it out because of what I'm trying to do with these images. So, awkward as it is, not even necessarily sure I liked those shadows. I didn't really take a moment to look at them. I gotta take them out. But yeah, like, anytime you do something artistic, right, that says something about who you are as a person, because it's an expression of your either your feelings or your ideals or just your imagination. Like, I've heard people say to me, like, what kind of a person thinks that up, right? And I think we all kind of recognize, like, some things you see, and it is very much like, ooh, what kind of a person would think of that? That's kind of messed up. Is that really where this person's mind goes? Is that how their mind works? That's, you know, that's not great. I was watching a television show with my wife, and I can't remember what show it was. It doesn't matter. But I remember, like, saying to each other, like, who thinks this up? Like, this is really twisted. Who thinks this up, and why? Like, what's the reason for this? Is this like somebody's been thinking about this, and now they get a chance to put it on film, on the television, or streaming, I guess is what it or was it like, hey, we really want this to be disturbing, we really want this to people to not be okay with this, right? So, and then they just kind of sat around and thought about, you know, how what would be bad, what would be like really unacceptable, and you know, they kind of came up with it that way. And I think there's a meaningful difference there, right? Like, one is, okay, that was messed up, and the other is, wow, I think this person might need help, you know. I think I'm going to make this a hard shadow, which means, so kind of what I'm thinking about here is like, I'm pretty okay with this hand overall. It's weird. It's a bit too slender for the rest of the guy. But I think I don't know. I kind of think it looks nice. It's a little oversized. It's a little, but also a little thin. Anyway, so I like the hand, right? So I don't want to make a ton of changes to the hand. But now I'm thinking, like, if I'm going to do this, if I'm going to put this hard shadow here, nope. And again, that I went on the sketch layer. So I do this a lot. I, you know, don't really think through what I'm doing very well, and end up having to make changes. Okay. Now I've got it on the right layer. Now if I do this, which I really want to do, I want to put the hard shadows here. Then when I need to shade the fingers, you know, the underside, I can't use hard shadows to do it, probably. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but basically what I want to avoid is having the shape of the hand get lost, because, you know, the shadows just kind of blend into each other. So I'm gonna same mistake again. I'm gonna go ahead and do this. You know, like, I'm gonna color this in, but I think I may walk this back. I may change these shadows. So as I look at this image, there's a lot of shadows here that I'm going to change. They are not hard shadows in the rendered image. They're lighter shadows that are just sort of like defining wrinkles and stuff like that. I'm going to turn a lot of those into very hard, very deep shadows. And in my head, at least at this point, I think that's going to look great. Like that's going to be the thing for this drawing, for this painting. Now I know, like, I'm thinking it, so I imagine anyone watching me would be thinking it. Like, why are you coloring in the black? Why not just draw nice thick lines around the border and then do a fill? Why indeed? Like, great point. It would save a ton of time if I would do that. And I'm not. And I think, that just boils down to kind of what I'm familiar with. I'm just used to coloring it in my hand, so it's not faster, it's not good, and I should definitely break out of the habit. You know what? In fact, let's try right now. Let's go ahead and make a nice thick line here, and then we'll fill with black. I've never even used the color fill tool. Boom, we did it. Done. Yeah, that was a lot quicker and easier. Saved me time if I did that. Okay, so I have changed a few things. Like here we've got some shadow here, but like this whole shadow here doesn't necessarily make sense to me anymore. This shadow here, I'm into it, kind of. Like this ring shadow, I dig that. And then, more of the shadow from the other one. And then maybe even a little bit, even though like that's so different than that perspective wise. I think we could lean in a little bit and then make that a shadow across there. Yeah, I think that's fine. So now let's zoom in. I'm gonna go ahead and take this out because I'm gonna try to solidify this, right? I'm going to use the paint bucket and really get that in my head. So here we got a bunch of lines. I don't know, so I should probably experiment with it, but I'm not. Just coloring that in. Boom, boom. Paint bucket. Boop. Done. Okay. So it's just a new thing that I gotta learn. And then this is gonna be, I don't like that. This is gonna be dark in here, right? Like, I think that's okay. And then I think just a little bit like that is fine. Okay, I want to get some of the wrinkles in there for sure. I'm a little concerned here because I think I will lose this definition, which maybe that's okay. But if I go ahead and do this hard shadow as I see it, his waist kind of disappears. So, since I think that's going to be a problem, I'm just going to put it on another layer. That's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to change some of this. But not all of it. I'm definitely using the model as a guide. I didn't really like that fold anyway, so I'm kind of happy to see it go. Like that. This one's pretty angled, so we'll do the same thing. Yeah, I think we could go like something like that, and then we'd say maybe this isn't just a fold, but it's actually like this is a fully separate piece. So we can do like a little bit like that. So here's what I'm working with. I think putting these shadows in is going to make the drawing as a whole look worse. But I'm not sure. And I think it absolutely makes sense. If I've got hard shadows up here, that I should have hard shadows coming in from the side of his sash or his belt, or even the side of his leg. Now this does have, I've not disabled the tap to undo, so sometimes I just accidentally undo something. And then, you know, me being old, and I don't bother to redo it a lot of times. I just recolor it, right? Like that's, it feels easier even if it's not. So do something funky like that, maybe like that, and then up to there. We'll say that's probably good. And then we've got this business here. So how would we? So these, I want these to be lighter. I think they should be lighter. I think that makes sense. But these, I think, are fine to be dark. So I think what I'm going to end up doing is I'm just going to do these as dark shadows. But I'm going to keep it on this layer and see what comes of it. I really like the form of this. Like the way that it was rendered. Like these shadows are a lot of what I liked about the initial render. So let me thicken up these border lines, and we're going to try doing a fill again. As we're saying, a fill is saving us a lot of time. A lot of time and a lot of effort. Okay. So hurdles. So yeah, people will ask me like, why, if you've been writing for almost 30 years, why don't you have any books out? Like, what is that? There can't be any good reason for that. And the short answer is correct. There cannot be any good reason for that. 100%, that's true. Why do I not have any books out? I guess the implication that I hear right off the bat is, oh, you must be a quitter. I think I hear that because, to a degree, like, I have almost like a guilty conscience about it. In a sense, I am. You know. And there will be those who will say, what do you mean in a sense? Like in a very, very strong, very real sense you are. Because you quit. That's why. Like, you're a quitter because you quit. You know, and fair enough. That's true. I did quit. I didn't quit like right off the bat, like what I think saying that makes it sound like, but I did quit. Like, I tried to get my book published, I don't know, over a decade ago. I didn't get any responses. publishing industry is fairly callous about that. They tell you up front, like, we don't really have time to be responding to people, so we're probably not going to respond to you. Um, everybody knows this. Everybody who's trying to write something and get it published, like, this is pretty common knowledge. You're going to get rejected a lot. Nobody's going to get accepted on the first try. And I was kind of in a, well, where'd that go? I was kind of in a self-made conundrum where my firstborn was about to be born, and like I wasn't working at the time, and my son was about to be born. My wife had a very good job, which was, is sort of incidental to the story, but we were relying on her income while she was about to give birth. So she needed to be able to be off of work for the last bit of the pregnancy, or at least have it as an option on the table, right? And we needed to have a source of insurance that was dependable, that would cover medical costs. We're introducing a child into the family. Children get sick a lot. These were things that we knew. Like, none of this was a mystery to either of us. I didn't have any expectation that this wouldn't be true. Like, I knew, like, I needed to secure a source of income. So I had kind of like this last ditch hope that, like, an agent was going to say, yes, I will represent you. And then, one thing would lead to another. My story would be released. It would somehow become immediately popular and make a ton of money. And then I wouldn't have to go get a job. So, I kind of pursued that line of thinking for a while, and I'm not going to disagree with anybody who says that's foolish. You're just wasting time. I think, I think I felt that way too. There was a large part of me that was like, this is stupid. I'm just wasting time. I need to just get a job. So, like, even as I was doing this, I was thinking, okay, well, I definitely need to secure a job because we need to have the money to support the child and everything. Kind of getting lost on where I am in this drawing, in this painting. I think I just take the whole thing dark there. So, yikes. Dropped my phone. I guess rambling cut short, I got a job, which was great. Like, I'm so thankful that I got a job. That was a good thing. There was no negative about getting a job. But I was also, like, really disappointed that, like, my crazy writer's dream didn't come true. And so I reacted to that in what I think, anybody could clearly agree was a pretty unhealthy way, which was to just say, all right, well, forget it. I'm done with this writing thing. I'm not interested. I'm not going to do it. And I just kind of gave up. And I focused on, not in an entirely bad way. Like, I gave up and I focused on the job that I now had, which was good in that sense. Like, focusing on the job, doing a good job, that's good. Like, that's not bad. It's a good thing. All right, let's take a step back and look at this shading over here where we lose all that definition, but like it leaves it to the imagination, right? Like even this, I feel like this is too much. Like this should just be that, right? I think that works. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and merge these, right? Oops. That took my name away. I like to keep my names. So at that point in my life, I gave up on writing. I set it aside completely. Like I never intended to give writing another try after that. I was done. That was how I felt about it. I was done. And I kind of stuck with that, really, for 13 years. Well, 10 or 11 years, I guess, would be more accurate. I didn't just stick with it. Throughout that time, I mean, at first I was just angry. So it was easy to just be like, yeah, I'm not a writer. Obviously, I'm not a writer, right? Why obviously? Why am I obviously not a writer? Well, obviously I'm not a writer because my writing did not support my family financially. That was it. That was why in my mind, obviously I'm not a writer. A writer is someone whose writing sells well enough that they can support their family, right? That's what was in my head. That's what I thought was right. Correct. That's what I thought was correct. So I had that kind of bitterness going on in my head where I was like, yeah, I'm not a writer. Why would I keep trying to write? Who cares? Nobody. Nobody cares. My writing is not good enough for anybody to care about. Now, I kind of say that in a tongue-in-cheek way because I never really believed that. Like, I never actually believed that my writing isn't good enough for anybody to care about. That's silly. I just thought, like that's what the evidence points to, I guess. So I quit writing. And then, as the years went by, it just kept nagging at my mind. Like, I guess the big turning point for me was when my wife was diagnosed with cancer. And it started to become a reality that I might lose her. Like her story might be drawing to a close, might be ending. And as I was forced to face that and deal with it and internalize it, it just started to bother me more and more as I thought about, well, what's the meaning of, like what I'm doing? I'm a good data analyst, but I've never been, like it's not changing anybody's life. And the things that I've done to help my coworkers have largely been ignored or rejected. And even if they weren't, I don't think I would find any fulfillment or meaning in doing those things. So if my wife is going to pass away and I'm going to be left on my own, and I too will one day have to face my story ending, What was my story? You know, this sort of what did it all mean kind of mindset. And it was that kind of thinking that really got me to the place where I was like, well, I feel like I'm a writer. Like that's the identity that I still hold to. Which is kind of like, well, how are you a writer? If you haven't written anything in 10 years, how are you a writer? Explain that enigma. It doesn't seem like you're a writer at that point. And that kind of pushed me back into a place where I had to be like, well, I think I'm not a writer, but I want to be a writer. I think I kept asking myself the question, like, if I died today, would any of my kids, if somebody came to them and asked them, what did your dad do? Like, who was he? What kind of a person was he? What skills did he have? What were his interests? Would they at any point in that conversation say, oh yes, my dad was a writer? And the answer to that very obviously was no. Not at all. They would never say that. And so in wrestling with that, I started to come to the place where I was like, okay, I think I need to get serious about writing again. I think that is a thing that I should be doing. I should be writing. Which brought me to the place where I'm trying to make another attempt at publishing my second book, which I'm very happy with the second book, but I think, there were some changes that needed to be made. I would also like to publish my first book, but I think there's more work to be done. And then I want to also publish the third book at least, to just sort of finish out the trilogy. There is a fourth book, but it doesn't have a lot to do with the story of the trilogy. So I'm not as concerned with getting that book done. I don't think it's as important. I'd love to do it. I just don't think it's that important. Like, I have other things, other more pressing things that I should be doing first. So what are the hurdles? When we get back to the starting point, right? Like this isn't, I guess this question maybe even isn't that interesting to me, but what are the hurdles? Like what stops the writing from happening? And if not the writing, then the presentation, the publishing, the sharing it with other people. What stops that from happening? Why isn't that happening? And I guess that's what I'll talk about next time, because I think I've run out of time. Yeah, I'm out of time, so I'm gonna call it quits. But next time we'll talk. I will try to talk more about what I think the hurdles to putting my work out there are.